Junkie Nation here at CCOM in Las Vegas at the Virgin Hotel, and we got more guests. This time it's UFC Flyweight Miranda Maverick. She's got a fight coming up this weekend, Saturday, UFC on ESPN, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. She is on the main card. Dione Barbosa stands on the other side of the octagon. How are you, Miranda?
I am doing good today. How are you?
Good. Hey, is there any momentum from last weekend's fight? Because that was the previous opponent. But again, the division's kind of shaken out. Mm-hmm. Now your fight becomes even more meaningful, right?
Oh, man. I was so excited. Watching the fights last weekend gave me so much confidence, honestly. Like the way Rose did against Tracy. I've been training with Rose, the past 7-8 weeks. And knowing how I did against her during our sparring rounds and stuff, I was like, man, I'm going to go in there and beat whoever's standing in front of me, But Dione Barbosa, unfortunately, opponent got switched up. It's not top 15 anymore, which I wish it was, so I could keep moving on up. But, get paid the same no matter who's standing in front of me right now. So I'm excited to go in there and kind of show why I deserve to be even higher ranked, have a ranked opponent, and kind of use her as an example, And I kind of feel bad with that because I'm glad that she stepped up. I'm glad that she ended up taking the fight. But I'm happy to have the opportunity and go in there and show up and show out for everyone.
Are you the type of fighter that studies their opponent? Like we just had Chris Curtis here about an hour ago. And for one of his friends, Sean Strickland, he actually did 4 pages of notes and things, game planning, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other fighters that are like, nope, I don't like to do it. I focus on me. Where do you sit?
Kind of in the middle, I guess. I do study, I think, a lot more than other. Yeah, right. I study a lot more than I think other fighters do. I'll sit down with my coaches individually and together to watch all the fights that they've had. But I also study myself, and I find that important as well. I act as if I'm my opponent, and I go and watch all of my recent fights, and I'm like, man, what are the holes that they're going to see in my game? What are they going to go back to their coaches and say, hey, I saw this. Yeah. I think she's bad at this, good at that, and then we work on that. But ultimately, I am focused on myself. For instance, when the opponent got changed, I was like, game plan doesn't even change. I go in there and I try to be the best version of myself. I train as if I'm fighting the #1 girl in the world. I don't train as if I'm fighting Tracy Cortez. I don't train as if I'm fighting Dione. I train as if I'm fighting Valentina or Alexa, and I get in there and I make sure that I'm improving the spots that I'm weak and also improving the spots that I'm strong. And so I'm ready for anything when I go in there, to where if something like this does happen, or even if an opponent switch happened right now, I'm ready to go.
I always encourage fighters that are near the top to get on the same timeline as the champion. Mm-hmm. The champ, supposedly, we don't know yet, going to fight. See that Noche UFC banner there, the sphere,
exactly.
Right? Now, that is in 2 months, but is that something that, you keep a fairly active schedule. Is that something that you also keep an eye on to kind of do your fight, handle your business, but also watch what's happening and just try and be on that same?
I don't try to stay on their same schedule because I feel like the higher you are, the less fights you get at the end of the day. I try to be ready for short notices. I try to be ready no matter what, and I wish I could get 4 fights a year. That doesn't usually end up happening because of roster purposes, because opponents drop out, because people get hurt, whatever else.
Jessica Andrade do it?
Man, I don't know, I really have no idea.
You want to do that?
Yes,
okay.
I want to. They know I'm ready all the time,
Nice.
I got called potentially for the Rose fight if Tracy didn't end up accepting, so maybe that would have ended up happening, even though I trained with her the whole time. But we were like, we're down. I got called for the Jasmine fight, and I was like, listen, I already paid for flights, I paid for my Airbnb, pay me a couple more grand. I'll do the Denver fight a week early, and start cutting weight today when they called. But I'm always ready. They know that on short notices, I always say yes. A lot of times fighters will say no. Once you're in the rankings, it's kind of hard. Yeah. Jessica Andrade is also able to go to 115. She's done the 125, so that's really impressive. I am not a 115 fighter. I'd probably kill myself trying to make it there. I'm not a 135 fighter. I'm a little too short for that, even though she's done that before too. But that's kind of what I aspire to have. Yeah, I think more like cowboy in that kind of circumstance of you call me in 2 weeks, I'll be there.
So our sport has continuous evolution, right? Especially with the fighters. Is that kind of like the new norm? Fight camps, just one long fight camp, just stay ready because of these opportunities that may arise?
Man, for some of us. I know a lot of fighters that get kind of heavy outside of camp and stuff, and they're like, I don't want short notice. They can call me in 5 months, they can call me in 7 months, and I'll be ready whenever. And I'm like the one knocking on the door like, hey, call me. I'm ready. Hey, I'm ready. And for me, it's yes, I stay lean, I stay in shape, but there is an intensity difference between when I'm actually in a fight camp. Like when I spar, it's not all me, give Miranda all the cage rounds, both coaches there all the time. Sometimes it's it's more development rounds, as we like to call it. Maybe I'll go with people that we already know I can beat, but I'll focus on defense only, or I'll focus on a new position that I'm working on, or a new takedown series, whatever it is. And even if I get beat the whole round, if I succeed at that one thing 3 times, then it's a successful round. So that's the difference between the fight camp and the outside of fight camp, is kind of that learning and development stage, where in fight camp I'm just there trying to get the best cardio I can, trying to be the best version of myself, improve myself, and make sure I'm ready for that night when it comes. And we kind of go in like a mountain, right? We go upscale, and then about 4 and 3 weeks out from fight camp, that's at the highest level, and then I start kind of dialing back down a little bit so that I can be ready for this weight cut and recover.
You mentioned Alexa, Valentina. When you get to your moment at the top, do you have a preference? Who do you think will be there when it's your time?
Man, I think that Manon, I think Aaron, and I think Valentina and Alexa will all still be there. You know, they're all fairly young fighters. You know, Valentina and Alexa, I know, are getting a little older. I think Manon's still waiting for her time to shine. But I think I'm within a couple of years of being up there, if not this year. You know, I'm trying to move my way up. Something seems to always happen. But where Macy Barber's at right now, I feel like that's my spot. You know, I got kind of robbed from her way back when, and it's been kind of stuck to me ever since. I'd love to get that rematch back at some point. I think she'll still stay in the top 10, top 5 area too, and hopefully I'll get a rematch with that one as well.
Do you feel like all those fights will eventually happen? It just seems like there's so much turnover. There's so many good fighters. Do you feel like it'll all kind of happen eventually, everything you want?
Oh, yeah. It'll eventually happen. You know, there's just so many fighters, like I said, on the roster. People want to wait 5 months before they fight. So you think about it, you want 4 of those fight combinations to happen. It ends up taking like 2 years for that to end up panning out. But one of these days I'll get there, and I'm going to stay in the game a while longer. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I'm trying my best to be the best version of myself.
When people ask us about Miranda Maverick, we always say she's cool, calm, collected, even when she's in a pickle, but especially when she's in a pickle, right? Tell us about your business. I think that's really cool. You have a business where you sell pickles. What's the biggest difference between, your business mindset and fighter mindset?
Man, I guess when I walk in the cage, I'm a little meaner than I am on the phone when I'm having problems with customers, you know. For me, it's kind of the same, though. You got the fight IQ, you got the business IQ. I try to be a good representative of myself no matter where I go, try to be a role model, try to have integrity, whether I'm inside the octagon, outside the octagon, doing business stuff. And for me, just having this business opportunity is just one more way to use my platform. You know, I try to always support good causes, try to go out there and be a role model for others and inspire them, but also like this business aspect of it. Like these other fighters are just like, oh, yep, all I do is fight. And I'm like, man, I don't. Like, use your platform. Use it to the best of your ability. To me, fighting isn't the end, right? Like, fighting isn't the end of my life. I can't even do it my whole life. It's a young person's sport. So I'm trying to use that platform while I can to kind of set up my family, make proper investments. And so I have prowlerpickles.com, if you guys want to go check it out, where I have my own pickle business. I literally do them from scratch myself. I'm in a couple stores already, starting to work my way up, not only in the amount of products I have available, but also in the availability of them for people. But right now I ship pretty much everywhere. But I also have honey business that I just started a few weeks ago. So I use local Colorado honey, local Missouri honey. I'm already starting to work with a couple restaurants to use it in their drinks and in their foods, like sauces and stuff. So I have honey available at that same site. And also, I was telling you guys before the interview, right? I just got done making my logo for what will be Bloody Miranda mixes for those people that do drink out there. Yeah. So it's a little bloody, like AI picture of me, you know, but we'll just say it's tomato sauce, you know. But I'm really excited to be adding to my business and keep growing and investing in that, and hopefully at some point have something that not only keeps me from having to work a 9 to 5, but also helps the rest of my family and maybe gives them some opportunities to have jobs where they can stay at home too, or at least stay within the family and have a business going whatever hours they want.
How immersed are you with, you mentioned the honey, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know a guy, you might know the name, King Mo. He's now with American Top Team as a coach. He used to fight for Strike Force. But he's doing the whole beekeeper, and he's into honey as well. Is that, are you... Like,
so
bees and
yes.
Okay.
So fun fact is,
that.
When
and I got a steam story out of this.
Please. So when I was 12 years old, this is my second purchase I ever made in my life, and the first like big purchase. It was a few $1,000s that I had saved up as a kid, and at 12 years old, I went and bought 3 of my own beehives. I went and found local swarms that I bought from people and started my own beehives at 12. Got my own bee suits and everything. Now the funniest part of this story is we found out that I'm slightly allergic to bees. But but only after the fact. I ended up getting stung on the forehead. Like the first time I ever got stung was on the face, and I
Did you
blew
look
up.
like Joanna after that fight with Jean
Man,
Wei?
I always say Elephant Man, but I mean, I
like
guess
that?
that could be too. You know,
Oh,
I think it was
wow.
worse than Joanna was.
No way, really?
Yeah, not to the point that like my throat closed up or anything. So I'm not like deathly allergic or anything.
Now, was
but
it
we
a
were like,
swarm
man,
or just one
just
sting?
just one. I think I was like moving the hives a little bit, and sometimes they can get a little grumpy, and I didn't have my
the queen
full
bee,
suit
gotta watch
on.
out.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so ended up getting stung. Looked a little silly at school for a few days. You know, I was starting high school. You never want to be that awkward person, but I was. So started having bees for a while, and my siblings started helping me with it. My dad did, and now there's still beehives back on the ranch in Missouri, and I work with other local beekeepers as well, and hoping to expand that soon.
That is fascinating
Yeah.
because this was at age 12. Most other people that age are, you know,
Yeah,
you
they're
said
buying
high
toys
school,
and stuff, you know?
clothes or a PlayStation.
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
And you wanted the
Man,
beehives.
I've always been the type that wanted
It's
to make
impressive.
something. You know, I've always been the type that wanted to produce something, have a business, whatever. And I always loved honey. My family did too. And I thought, man, it'd be so cool to have bees on the ranch, help pollinate stuff, have a little garden here. And it always helped with the garden and everything. My family was big into homesteading. We had our own beef cattle, we had our own eggs, we had our own milk cows, all of it. And that's kind of how I learned how to can and pickle as well. I think we had talked about that prior. So honey was just another thing on the agenda. And to me, I mean, we look now, what's it been, like 15 years, and we still have it. They're still going. I get to have the same bees that I had when I was a kid, I'll have for my kids someday. And it's pretty cool to me, just the evolution of that, and be able to have something within the family that's growing that doesn't go away like a pair of clothing does, or a video game or something like that.
Was it easy to fit in having these likes, or was maybe where you grew up, did others have, like, did you have friends that also did this?
Not really.
with you?
Not really. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. Never really had that many friends, I guess you'd say, but I see it as families better than anything, and my siblings and I have always been best friends. I've always had a few close friends, and as you grow up, you know, you separate or you come back apart, and when I started in the gym community is actually when I'd say that I've had the most long-term friends, you know, people that had the like mindset of, I'm going to grow, I'm going to improve myself, try to be a better person inside and outside this sport all the time, and found some people that were like-minded and had more of a business mindset with everything.
Anytime we've ever interviewed you,
Yeah.
you're always super sweet, you're
Oh,
always
thanks.
calm. But when you're in the cage, the intensity turns up.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in this week does that switch flip?
Man, the switch has already been flipped, if we're being honest about it.
back here.
To me, to me, it's like I'm already to that point where in my mind I'm angry, I guess you'd say. I'm to where I'm like, man, this person's standing across from me. Of course, from a logical standpoint, you'd say, well, you'd be thankful that they're standing in front of you, and I am. Of course, I have to have an opponent to go in there and fight, but at the same time, it's like a mindset of, how dare you? How dare you think you can come in here and ruin my dreams, take away everything that I'm working for by standing across from me and thinking you can beat my ass? Like, that's not going to work. It's not going to happen, and I won't let it happen. And whether I win or lose, and when I have lost in the past, the mindset was still there. You know, like, I know anything can happen in this sport. That's part of what makes it so amazing to watch, so amazing to be a part of. But I've worked as hard as I can to make it my best performance on Saturday, and I plan on that being the case today, or Saturday, just as much as it is today.
Fans love that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you said you think that. But have you ever gotten close, whether it's just after the press conference or the
Mm-hmm.
weigh-ins, and actually said those words, like, how dare you even show up this week?
No,
Or just,
no.
you know, that
You
come
know,
out? Or
I've never really been mean to my opponent, because at the end of the day, I think it's all about respect and sportsmanship. There's been a couple of times where I have not liked my opponent, but to me, it's just like a laughing matter.
who didn't you like?
Well, back before UFC, actually, I fought Pearl Gonzalez. Didn't like her. She's pretty aware I don't like her.
Can we ask why? What did she do? Or?
She just called me a few names
Oh.
and called me all kinds of things, and it was like just inappropriate and called for.
Did the fight squash the beef?
Yeah.
Is there still tension?
She was just never really respectful after, before, none of it. I beat her, and I was 20, I think, and it was like she was supposed to be the next champ and everything. You'd think it would. I was fine on my end. I'm always cordial and fine, but things happen, you know. But yeah, that's really the only one that I've been like, oh, really can't stand this person. Others, it's just like, man, I've been really happy to fight them. If I ever fight Macy again, maybe that'll be a little bit of beef too, just because of the past fight and kind of getting a robbed decision, but that wasn't necessarily her own fault, you know, that was judges. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really been rude to them face to face, but it's all in my mind, you know. I'm all ready to go in there, and it's just kind of me against them at the end of the day. They're my opponent. They're my adversary at that point. We can be friends before, we can be friends after, but in the cage, I'm ready to do whatever I can to further myself and my family.
Do you like the face-offs, by the way, just in general? Is that an opportunity for you to look in your opponent's eyes, get some sort of a read?
For sure.
Would you rather just not even do that?
No, you know, I think it's like a whole mindset factor. You know, I have my background in psychology, and for me, it's like going up there and kind of a factor of intimidation. You know, I'm always smiling up there and everything. I'm like, man, sometimes they'll be shaking. Sometimes I'll grab the wrist and be like, man, I'm so much stronger than you, or I'm so much like thicker bone, or whatever it is, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got this in the bag.
Are you a hand squeezer? Are you
yeah,
sending a message?
not a hand squeezer
Okay.
at all, but I always joke that I'm like, I'll handshake and then I'll grab the outside of the wrist too, and I'm like, oh yeah, you got little wrists, like, all right, let's go.
What if
Oh, I don't care. I'll laugh sometimes or whatever. There is no counter. It's just like me taking intel, you know, no matter how silly it is.
What did you make out?
I mean,
on the wrist?
he's got bigger wrists than I have, you know. So
I
so
thought you
he's
said he
doing
had a
all right.
sissy wrist.
Oh, I was just saying in general to an opponent.
Oh.
You got
I'm
you
trying
got
to start
fine
something
wrists,
here.
you know.
But he's a psychology major too, so I was like, let's see the mind games these two might play.
All right.
Tracy Cortez, let's go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Did that ship sail, or would you like to revisit it after this weekend? Like, I mean, to be fair, she lost, you know, but she also took a late notice. She kind of came on strong.
She didn't take a late. Listen, I think that's
Well,
the
I guess
most
the
silliest thing. Yeah, but she was supposed to fight the next
You're
week.
right.
So all these
But
articles, I just got done talking about this with my dad.
5 rounds.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Whatever excuses she wants to give. To me, it's like you got to be ready for anything.
Okay.
You took a fight for 5 rounds. You took it in Denver. You're making all the excuses of weight cut and everything else. It's not like it was a 5-day notice. It was 2-day notice. She should have been ready for a fight the next week. Like, you start your weight cut 2 weeks before. It's not like she had sitting on the couch. You know, I see all these articles. They're like, oh, she came off the couch and did this. I'm like, nah, do your research. Like, she was supposed to fight me this weekend. Like, it's not that big of a change. She's in the top 10 ranking. Tracy's never even really fought a ranked opponent, and she finally had an opportunity to move up, and she didn't show up, you know. There's all the excuses that you can have. I'm fine with fighting her later on. That's completely fine with me, but definitely helped my confidence and everything else. Like, I think that it'd look about the same if I fought her as what it did when Rose fought her. I was not impressed, we'll just say that. But anyone that they put in front of me that's in the top 15, I'm ready to fight. I just don't see how she still has as high of a ranking as she does, and maybe that'll end up going down. Maybe we'll switch spots after this fight. I don't know. But like I said, anybody they put in front of me, if it ends up being Tracy, I'm down. I'm ready to go if she wants that fight.
Man, I really hope they fill your dance card, you know,
Me too.
as much as you want.
Yeah, man, I'd
It's
love
an
to fight in
exciting
October
division.
again. Yeah.
There's a lot of high-profile
Yep.
names, you know, some, you know, maybe that they've reached the apex like a Valentina. We don't know if she's, you know, on her way down or what. She looked
Right.
tough in the last fight.
Yeah.
I honestly thought she beat Alexa.
Yeah, well, and
fight.
that's the problem. It's like there's the trilogy, and it was so close. I mean,
It could be because if
Man.
she wins, it'd be one,
Yeah,
and one.
exactly.
But I think it's also lifted the profile of the division.
right.
So I
think
guess
so.
it served its purpose, but at the same time, okay, let's get this thing going.
That's what I feel like. It's
you
like,
know.
let's mix it up. Like, throw Manon in the fray a little bit, maybe. Like, I think she's kind of the next up-and-comer within that. Talia was, but of course that ended up not panning out. But now we have Manon, and I think that she would do good. She may be holding the title at some point, too, but we'll see. I mean, I think that the trilogy fight, it's interesting how the matchmakers work it out, but they have their reasons, and it seems like fans are ready to watch it no matter what, especially if it does end up being on Noche.
How does it end on Saturday night with Dione Barbosa?
Man, I see it being a submission finish. Not sure which round yet, but I'm going for first round. You know, I'm trying to go in there and get that fight bonus no matter where it goes and just dominate her in every single area and show why I need a ranked opponent.
You want to break something, or do you want to remove somebody from consciousness, you know, like with a
You
choke
know,
or something? A blood choke.
It's kind of hard to tell you. Let's say it's a choke. I don't mind the breaking something, but I also love chokes because it's the ultimate submission. They can't really get up. They can't fight out of it. You're just going to sleep.
Nice. It's always great talking to
Yeah,
you. I'm
thank
glad
you.
we got to do this in person, and we appreciate you doing
Absolutely.
it on Fight Week. I know you obviously got to get back and finish the weight cut, and then
Yep.
get ready to get down on Saturday night on ESPN. The whole card starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. Then the main card where Miranda's featured, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. Should be a great one. Thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.